All right, welcome everyone to our November check-in. Let me go to, I'm going to minimize my screen there. All right. Just the official page there for our monthly check-in. Our community agreements, as always, be engaged, trust in good intentions, speak your truth. Maybe there might be some discomfort if you don't agree, but we all get to bring our identity. There might be some lack of closure, but we will work on it. If there are unanswered questions, we will try to find the answers. And then I found a new quote for us. I like this. I don't remember where I found it, probably on Facebook. It says, the world is changed by your example, but not by your opinion. And that's Paul Cole. I thought that was a really good quote for today.
It's Coelho.
Coelho, thank you. I knew that wasn't right. I appreciate that. A great quote out anyway. All right, and then from our blueprint, we're going to look today at the shared responsibility, asset-based teaching and learning, well-prepared culturally responsive educators with high standards, giving you some resources, learning opportunities that build on EL assets, and the academic and linguistic supports. And again, those can be found in the link at the bottom, our blueprint for success. So today's agenda, we're going to have a guest speaker, Melissa Lackey from Sedalia. And if you don't know Melissa, you need to make sure you keep her email address and contact her. She's a great resource. She's helped us out a few times at our meetings and really a technology whiz, has some great ideas. So we're going to hear from her first off, and then we're going to look at our WIDA standards again for that next part in our study, and then just question and answer if we have any. Hopefully we'll get that all done today. So we're going to start out with Melissa, and I'm going to turn it over to her and let her take over. She shared something with me earlier on this month that I said, that's great, Melissa, why don't you just share that with everyone? And she agreed to do so. So I've put the link to her document here. There's another one that I will add as well, but I didn't have permission, Melissa, so I'll let you talk to that, okay?
And I have that pulled up as well.
Okay, so I'm going to turn it over to you, and I will stop sharing my screen and let you share yours.
Okay.
And those who are just joining us, if you will sign in our chat, I didn't get our note taker made this time. So if you'll sign in for the chat, that'll let us know who's here, and I'll send you out the note taker when I get it put together.
Okay. So you ready?
I'm ready when you are, hon.
All right. So I'm Melissa Lackey, and I teach EL students at Smith Cotton High School in Sedalia. I am the only EL teacher there, and currently I have 65 students I see every day. My students are in about 50 different classes. We're getting a lot of newcomer students in, and so over the last several years, I talked to the district, and getting another teacher wasn't really an option. And so I had to figure out a way to kind of try to address or help the students that were in all of the content area classes. And so technology has been a big help in that respect. Rather than constantly having students come to my room when I have my own curriculum to teach with assignments from other classes and things like that, I started working as most of the time as we call it kind of like a collaboration model. It's really me kind of just only teaching like 3 hours a day, 2 to 3 hours a day, and then the rest of the time I'm going through curriculum and creating things that a level 1 or a level 2 and a level 3 student can do in the regular content area classroom. So I felt like we were always talking to teachers about what needed to be done, but nobody really showed them what it looked like. So one of the things that I ended up creating to kind of help with that was this accommodation tips and resources, because I wasn't going to have all of the kids in my classroom all of the time anymore. So rather than teachers not knowing what to do, I created this with the idea that they could go through and basically follow links to information that's important for them, or that has information just for their specific needs. So basically, we have everything in here from our grading policy, just accommodations in general. I've given ideas for different scaffolded assignments, math resources, science, ELA, social studies. And so I basically just tried to address every question I've ever gotten in one document to not be as overwhelming. And so I don't know where I should begin, but basically, if this is of interest to anyone, you can always make a copy, add your own links, change things up as it fits your needs. But the cool thing about doing everything in slides, I have discovered, especially for my students, is if I create these little text boxes, students who need it could translate the text boxes with an add-on. Students who also need to hear the text, they can have it read to them through extensions and things. So I do a lot of things in Google Slides now, including this. So basically, what I've been trying to get teachers to understand is that the students do not necessarily have to do every single thing that they have planned for the day. So bell work. If it's going to take me 30 minutes to explain to a child what the bell work question is even about, it's kind of a pointless thing for that student to do. So I tell the teachers to focus on their I can statements, and that's what I've kind of been doing. I take their I can statements and I create language appropriate scaffolded materials through technology for my kids. Again, doing things through Google Slides allows translation if necessary. It allows it to be read out loud. I can create drag and drops, things like that. So I have some things to show you as well. But this is just the alternative. I'm not used to using this without a mouse. So this is just the wrong page. No, it's right. Okay, so basically I tried to explain to teachers that they need to think about the fact that we have kids coming in from countries where they might be SLIFE. So what we might expect the student to already know at a high school level, they may not have any background in. And so this just gives them some general ways to accommodate across the board. So, highlighting keywords, giving students note pages. I have the performance definitions and can-do descriptors linked in here. Anything that I have in here for teachers to look into, I've also linked videos, and they can kind of just click and move around as needed. So the general accommodations here talks about, rather than bell work, having students maybe make vocabulary flashcards, the extra wait time, things like that. So this is just the general slide that I have for you here. Again, this is where I try to break it down for teachers that a level 1 or 2 student can still meet that I can statement, but maybe it's not writing that essay that they planned for the rest of their kids. And so I have examples, again, linked in, for how this level 1 and 2 student could actually complete their activities or their content goals at their language level. So again, we know that a level 1 and 2 student can create visual representations, models, diagrams, etc. It's really kind of the visuals that's the important thing for them, word banks, scaffolds, and giving them some ideas about how it kind of moves up as the student's language level is progressing. And so we're going from word banks and single word close activities, things like that, to scaffolded sentences, to scaffolded paragraphs, etc. So at any point that you want me to show you anything in specific, let me know, because I have many things linked in here. One of the things that I've been working on here lately for some of the content area classes are these sentence substitution charts. So I'm going to show you what that looks like. So I have a lot of students who are in earth science, and one of the things that I've realized creating different kinds of accommodations is that I was leaving a lot of the sentence, like I didn't know where to begin to help students with sentences and creating sentences at their level in the high school classroom, because to be honest, the teachers are overwhelmed. Oftentimes they're being asked to create all these higher order thinking type activities and questions and assessments. And so they feel like they don't understand how to really scaffold for a level 1 or 2 student. And so this is just an example from earth science that I created using Google Slides. And I've really got this mouse backwards. So basically this is to help the students create sentences at their level, describing the different kinds of mineral breakage in earth science. It's also to focus in on some math language and kind of repeat things that they're hearing in other courses. So I have examples of that in here for teachers to see, so that, again, they need visuals. Teachers have a hard time understanding, okay, so what does this look like in my classroom with my content? And let's see, for math, I have, again, just the general things that I talk about throughout the document, which is focusing on your I can statements, not just everyday tasks to make sure that the students are working and staying on task. Focus on the big ideas to create your scaffolded assignments from and assessments. And so we all know that typically it's people tend to think, well, math is universal. So they don't tend to think of the language that's involved in it. And so I have a lot of different resources here for the teachers, including some of the things that I've created for algebra and geometry. I'll show you a couple of those. I think this is the one a teacher, one of the algebra teachers now, she's seen some of my activities and she created this to use with one of my students in our class. And basically you just take whatever worksheet that your textbook might offer. And in this one, they have a lot of language building activities, but they weren't being utilized. And so you basically take it and you can create an image out of it, put it in the background of the slide and create drag and drops. And so the student can simply drag and drop at a level 1 or a level 2 English level. So that is an example from algebra. Geometry. This has been really fun for me. I have a joke that I think every year I should probably try out for like Jeopardy or something, because I dabble in so many different subjects and trying to help students understand. I have students, again, level 1, level 2 students in geometry, and it's very language heavy. And so I took some of their worksheets and created a lot of visuals here to help them understand conditional statements in geometry. I'm not going to explain all of this because this might be even too much for some of you. But again, this is heavily language based, but the Google Slides is allowing for me to get really creative with helping my students. I'm able to put scaffolds on the side of any Google Doc, so there's references for them. Another example. Again, I've just taken the worksheets and made an image. I've converted them to images, to JPEGs, and wherever I want my students to be able to translate if necessary, I have to create a text box. And I tried to kind of color code everything, but again, they have everything they need here for a drag and drop. Let me see this one. This is, I think, really important. These are worksheets that they have in with the program that our school has purchased, but they're very rarely utilized. And I think this is really important, especially when it comes to the EL kiddos. They're supposed to be able to speak and talk about how their process for solving certain math problems. And for an EL kiddo that's a level 1 or level 2, they're not going to have all that language just yet. But this worksheet that was provided in their textbook actually had all of the answers, and all I had to do was get a little fancy and cut and paste, and students can actually drag and drop and show that they understand the steps to solving this problem. I'm not using the correct math terminology, I'm sure, so don't judge me on that. Again, there's other resources that are provided here, including, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the simulations for this website, but it has a lot of math and science simulations that really help to make the concepts visual for especially EL students, but I think all students benefit from it. Again, different kinds of resources that I find, I go in and I plug in here so that teachers can go through and help themselves, kind of like little mini PD, if you will. So that's
Melissa?
yeah.
Can I ask you a question?
Mhm.
Have you ever used any of the Khan Academy videos? They come in Spanish.
I have. The problem is that we're starting to get way more languages in our district than just Spanish. And so one of the things that I have in here is tips for video. And basically anything that you put on YouTube will automatically caption if you tell it to. And the students can choose to translate. Now, of course, we all know closed captioning is not perfect, but I tend to use a lot of YouTube videos that I make or I can find to give to the students more often than not. Again, with science here, same thing. I tried to find different things that would be beneficial for science teachers, like citing evidence and making claims. So there's scaffolds for that. I have the different examples of how we can accommodate for a level 1 or a level 2 student in the earth science class. This is something that I did several years ago before I got really a lot better at this technology thing. And basically students can go in here and illustrate that plates are coming together or converging, that plates are moving horizontally past each other, transform boundaries. And so it was really kind of trying to target that language. And so showing the teachers that this is the language that the kid needs to do well in his or her classroom. And so they don't have to do exactly the same thing as everybody else all the time. If it's going to help to build their language, they could do some of these things that are supplemental to the course. Let's see, what do we have? Biology. This is an entire unit of biology language that I created. Again, everything looks really small right now. But the cool thing about using technology is that I have students who come from different countries that well, I don't know why I said that. I have some students that have come from a particular country, and there tends to be this in their family, especially there tends to be this problem with their eyes, and they have not had access to appropriate medical care. So they're able to actually blow up the screen and see things. Again, they can click on the text boxes. If the student needs to translate, there are add-ons over here that I have the students get, and it translates in multiple languages off to the side so that students are still seeing the English if that's something that helps them. Again, it's a drag and drop, so they can drag the pictures accordingly. If we zoom in and see the text, they're also doing reading. And again, more images to kind of hit some of that key terminology in the science classes, key vocabulary that they see over and over again. I have linked videos in here where teachers can get a tutorial on how to use Google Drawings and things for students to do illustrations. So there's so many resources in here. It's probably more than anybody really needs. But again, my goal was, how do I help as many people in as many different places as possible? And so this is what I've come up with. You guys have any questions about anything so far? Because I feel like I'm just rambling about my slides. No? Okay.
I think you're doing
Could
great.
you-
Keep going.
Would you show those sentence frames that you had in that one right above?
The ELA, or I'm sorry, the Earth Science.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let me.
Yeah, the scaffolded response frames.
Okay, I have several different ones here, so I'll pull up this one. So again, this was for the Earth Science. I just created these the most recently. I took a teacher's slide presentation and I basically broke it up into sections, and I kind of simplified a lot of different things for my kids. Not simplified, that's the wrong word. I chunked it, and so I included activities for them to do within the slides. And then from that, I created these activities for language building. And so this was basically what was on the other slide that the teacher had created, that I adapted. And so basically it was a drag and drop to show whether the kid understood the terms metallic or non-metallic. And so from there, I created the sentence frames. I talk heavily with my students about subjects and the verbs, or once they get a little higher, the predicate. And so just to me, this is kind of just reinforcing that sentence building. They have, again, another one. There's a lot of adjectives in Earth Science, and so I kind of wanted to hit that in this unit to describe the different lusters. This stuff, I enjoy this so much, it's fun. And again, for non-metallic, there were also many different adjectives, and so kind of hitting the grammar, sentence building, sentence word order, things like that within their science class. So my goal is, with all of this, the goal has been that the teachers start to see, oh, this is what this might look like, and they are able to help me out. That is the end goal. I have more of all that if you guys want to see that at later. I did want to show you something else that I passed up from geometry. Okay, well, that's not opening. Give me 1 second. So again, I took all of this from something that was already created. I just put it into a format that the students can either translate if necessary, have it read aloud, etc. So Google Slides allows for all of that. It also allows me to do the drag and drops and put resources off to the side of whatever assignment that the student might have. But this was taken from a geometry worksheet where the steps were written out, and I kind of did it a little bit backwards. I started off with the written steps, and the students are going to have to read and then find the algebraic operation over here that corresponds and drag it to the box. The next activity, building up from that, this is the other cool thing about Google Slides. It allows you to add voice clips. And so I was able to create a listening activity for the students, now saying each step, the student having to listen and take the algebraic operation from the box and put it into the correct spot. So we're able to build the language with this technology. Now for this one, so this was kind of a scaffolded thing. The steps are written out, the students drag the operation. The next one was listening. And on this one, the students have to actually write it out with the word box. And so this would be a little bit of a higher student. But again, I'm really excited about what technology is allowing us to do for some of our kids. ELA, this is always harder for me to scaffold. I try to not have a level 1 student, obviously, in the ELA classroom because they're reading like Fahrenheit and Of Mice and Men and all of that good stuff. But I did find a really good resource here that might come in handy for any of you as well. There's a British website called EAL Nexus, and they have a host of already scaffolded assignments, vocabulary building, etc. for like Of Mice and Men or some other common literature that the students might come across. And so this is an example from their website. Now, occasionally there's going to be some British English, like rubbish instead of trash, etc. But I think that they have a wealth of information here and resources, and it's all free. You just have to sign up. And so I have this linked in for my teachers as well, just to give them ideas. I wanted them to be able to see what it looks like before they had to sign up for the actual website. But it's, again, it's free, but I know that sometimes that's too many steps when you have a lot on your plate. So I have examples in here of the different scaffolded activities for Of Mice and Men. It's even, this website is like amazing. So that, I don't know if you guys saw that because I was going really quickly, but they have translations available here. So they give you websites for different versions of Mice and Men. So this, I think this is a really good EAL or ELA resource. Again, some other things, some other resources are here. World Book, I'm sure some of you're all aware of that. News ELA, it used to be free, but now it costs, I believe, but it already has scaffolded news articles. And so I had included that. This here, sample accommodations, I was trying to stress that it is possible for a student to illustrate a concept without using the words. And so, which is hard sometimes for my ELA teachers to understand. But using technology, students are able to illustrate. Well, they could draw too, but some of them don't like drawing or they're embarrassed of drawings. But they can use Google Drawings or even Google Slides to illustrate more complex content or text, rather, like a proverb. With social studies, I've done a lot for world history and American history. And so I have examples in here. Again, I've included links to scaffolded resources that are already available. But I take some of their activities from their I can statements. And this was something I did early on. I've gotten a lot better at this. But basically, this was a chart that students were having to fill out all on their own. And a lot of my students didn't really understand it. And so again, I created a drag and drop to help them explain the strengths and weaknesses and be able to explain why the Roman Empire fell.
So how would a teacher grade this? Is a student turning in, or is it graded? Is this just notes that they keep on their own?
It depends on the teacher. We use Canvas. And so they can actually have this as a Google Cloud assignment in their Canvas that's only assigned to those students.
Mhm.
And it will come up on the screen just like any other activity, and it's right in the computer. Now, if you don't have that availability, that would be, I don't know, that would be kind of challenging, I suppose. We've gone one-to-one,
Mhm.
and so this makes a lot of sense for our kiddos. Again, drag and drops. A lot of these drag and drops were with the level 1, level 2 student in mind. They're in the regular classroom, they're hearing everything, they're participating to the best of their abilities, but like there's no language, they're not getting the targeted language that they need and developing that language. And so I try to create things that are going to help them overall with the language in their classes. So this was something the students needed to know. But again, there was so many new things thrown at them that something this simplified, well, I guess it's not really simplified. It's still reaching the I can statement. They're still reaching their objectives. It's just at the student's level, and it helps for the teachers to see this as well.
It scaffolds.
Mm-hmm. It's still a really hard concept. One of the things that I also did for this is more for the level 3 student. They're trying to do writing across the curriculum, across content. And so in world history, for example, students were supposed to write a short essay to answer their essential questions. Again, the EL kids didn't have all the language pieces necessary to help them do that. And so I color coded this. I add in, so this question was, what motivates humans to migrate? And so I gave them factors, because when I asked the teacher, how do you expect the students to answer, it was factors. And so I gave them the students examples and created a scaffolded paragraph, basically a short essay frame for the students, because they're also supposed to do in-text citation, etc. But I don't think they have enough guidance language-wise. And so this is taking some of the methods that I use to teach writing to my kids and basically using it for their content classes. So their topic sentences that I teach them how to do kind of generalized, and then, make your statement, back it up with an example. And so they're able to see this in the content class as well. And this is another example. Again, students were supposed to write a short essay about, what role religion should play in society. And we're talking about medieval society. So for an EL kiddo especially, wow. And so these were the kinds of words or phrases they wanted the kids to come up with. And I was like, there's no way they're doing that on their own. It's not happening. And so I tried to scaffold that the best that I could, and gave them ways, or just a little bit more scaffold, a little bit more information to help them before they had to actually write their essential question essay or response. Another way that students can use and teachers can use technology to help them out in the content room is, as in this example. This was something a student of mine did. They were supposed to draw a particular battle. This was a level 1 kiddo. They were supposed to include vocabulary like trenches, etc., etc. She didn't label it, but this was her first year in the country, and I think she did a pretty good job. But again, she used technology to help her illustrate a concept that was a little beyond her ability for the project, the specific project that was assigned. That EAL Nexus that I mentioned on the ELA page also has information for history. A lot of scaffolds are provided in that website, so I highly recommend teachers take a look at it. But this is about the Black Death, and which we know that is covered in world history, but this has already been scaffolded. It's just a great resource, and I've shown this to my the world history teachers and explained that this is the kind of thing that we need to move towards for the level 1s and 2s in their classes. So, and I'm going to hurry along a little bit because I'm just rambling. Again, I have also information here for vocabulary studies. I have video how-tos for how to use flippity.com. If you've never used flippity.com, I love it because you can create a variety of vocabulary activities for your students, and it's pretty straightforward. It gives you a demo, shows you how to do it. There also, of course, most of us, I think, are familiar with StudyStack and Quizlet. The thing about Flippity is it translates and it also reads out loud if necessary. So that's why I like to use that. Again, more information for the teachers about vocabulary. There's templates in here for students to kind of assess their own learning of vocabulary terms. I have vocab sheets that are linked in that are digital vocab sheets that students and teachers can use in their other classes. And for the tips for video and film, basically the thing that I've noticed over the years is students get like this packet of questions that go along with the video, and they're supposed to be able to like answer questions as they're watching this video. And I think it's really hard for the teacher to understand that that's just not going to happen with a limited English proficient student. And so I give some tips about that, talk about the importance of subtitles. And so going back to what you had asked earlier, I like to use YouTube because it also provides transcripts automatically if it's captioned. So it's easy to take that transcript and turn it into an activity. And so I have links here of videos to show how to do that. As well as other information. Again, this is just background information hitting how technology can really help an EL student. like if they're having problems with writing, technology can help with that. They're able to speak into a microphone, speech to text. I have students who can tell me exactly what they want to say, but they can't get it on paper. And so I'm like, we'll use the speech to text to help you. And so this was kind of my way of telling the teacher, hey, could the student do this instead? And again, more ideas for illustrations, using visuals if they're a struggling writer or a limited writer because they don't have as much English. Like some of the different activities that we can do with technology are like astounding. A lot of those you guys have already seen. Struggling readers, again, technology helps with that. There are many different extensions or add-ons that can be used to read out loud to the students. I leave it up to the student to decide if that's helpful to them. So they are able to go in there, use their add-on and have the text read out loud to them. Rewordify, I'm sure many of you are familiar with Rewordify. It'll take a text and simplify it down. So there's resources in here for students who have problems with reading. Immersive Reader, another extension that does some pretty amazing things, including translation. Students who have a hard time focusing, it will let them go line by line, reads aloud, it'll magnify, you can change colors if your student might have some visual, if it's hard on them visually. So yeah, there are way more resources in here than I have time to talk to you about. But I think that you get the gist. There are videos linked in. If you would like to use this or make a copy of it, adapt it for your particular school setting, that's fine with me. Any way that I can help. I've just discovered that technology has really kind of helped to kind of close the gap a little bit with my kiddos in the regular classes. And so it has been my attempt to help the students as well as the teachers understand their struggles and how to help them in their classes as well. So I don't know if you have any questions. I feel like I've rambled and clicked on links and whatever. So I guess it's I'm turning it back over to you, Cami.
Are you going to show your other resources as well? That other document? I'll let you do that real quick.
Oh, so the self-assessment writing rubric and the self-assessment speaking rubric. Yeah, so basically one of the things that I talk to my kiddos about is that they have a tendency when they get on the access test to think, oh, well, I answered the question correctly. So like if the question is like, what do you see? And they're like, well, flags. I'm like, yeah, that you answered correctly, but what level response is that? 1. So we kind of talk about that. And I said, well, tell me in a sentence, I see flags. What level response is that? And they're like, okay, 2. Yeah. So we need to keep challenging ourselves to do more because these people who are, this is how I explain it to the kids, the people who are scoring your writing and speaking don't know you from Adam. So how are you going to show that you are truly capable? And so after we do writing and speaking activities, I have them assess themselves. And it's kid friendly, but it's using the WIDA framework or the
Rubric.
key. Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
And so again, I'm putting these in text boxes that students can translate if they need to for my level 1 and 2 kids. And they basically just drag the dots to where they think they are. It's kind of hard. All your faces are blocking the dots. Let me back out here. Okay, so yeah, so they based on quantity and quality, sentence type, etc. They can drag and drop where they think they are. And after this, then there's a little reflection piece about, how they feel like they did and what they could do to improve even more the next time. And they know that the goal is not to go from a 1 to a 5, obviously. That's not the goal, but the goal is to keep progressing. And so we do the same with speaking. And again, reiterating to my students, it's not about if you're right or wrong necessarily. It's about the English that you use when you're talking about it. And so if you're asked to speak in a sentence, speak in a paragraph, things like that. And so this is to kind of help them take a look at what they're producing, the language they're producing, and see how they could actually improve their own scores. Because many of the students that I have that come in from 8th grade have been in EL since I used to teach elementary in the same district, and some of these same faces I had back then, and they should have been out of EL a long time ago, and they're not there yet. And the reason why is they've kind of developed some behaviors that have kind of perpetuated being in the program and not ever exiting with the access test. So or maybe not even producing enough work to use in their classes for a portfolio. So this is to kind of motivate those students in particular.
All right. Does anyone have any questions of Melissa? Again, when she shared this with me, and I thought that's just too good for us not to share with everyone else. So thank you, Melissa. We really appreciate you taking this time with us.
You're welcome. And I'm sorry I can't use my
Your mouse.
I can't use this. I'm using this computer and I have not used it in forever. So I try to go up, I go down.
So does anyone have questions?
Melissa, is this a living document for you, or have you kind of published it, or are you always adding to it? Oh, I can't hear you.
I'm always changing it up, so it's still ongoing. It's I check links and things and add to it if I need to, take away. Yeah, so it's just something that I keep up and running, and in fact, there's spaces for more.
I mean, it's amazing. I mean,
It
you are demystifying scaffolding, which I would say for every single one of the districts I work with, they would use this immediately. It's so useful.
Well, thank you. I hope it's useful, because I think that's the biggest problem. Teachers it's hard for them to take what they're being told students need to be able to do and then scaffold for a level 1 or 2 student. Like that, it doesn't make sense to them. So
right.
But it's not just for ELs. These should be used in every classroom for all students.
I know.
This is universal design for learning.
I know.
That's
and
why
that's one of the things.
Go ahead.
That's what I was going to say. The part that I have here about tips and tricks for struggling readers, and etc. That's for way more than just ELs.
Yep.
Yes.
And the part about self-assessment and like knowing how you're doing, evaluating your own production. I mean, that's amazing. Again, that's part of that universal design for learning framework and that push for culturally responsive education, so that we're training students how to learn and have metacognition and push themselves.
Right.
It's so well done.
Thank you. Let's see what their scores are like.
Well, that's important too.
In the last slide, doesn't it have your contact information?
The last slide's a survey, but
I
think my contact's on the front page.
On the front. Okay. Yes.
So where is it in there you find that the self-reflection that you just showed?
You know what? I may not have had that in there.
And you shared
I
it.
think that would be really helpful too.
Yes.
I can share it with Cammie right now to make sure.
Yeah. You shared it with me, but it wasn't something I could share with others. It was only to Sedalia.
Gotcha.
So that's why I haven't included it on my page yet.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm sharing it now.
Okay.
Great, thanks.
And I'll add that to our hub. So it will be there. keep asking questions if you have. I'm sure Melissa won't mind.
So are you finding that teachers are using this?
I mean, it depends. To be honest, I think some of the teachers forget about it, but I always share it out. Do you remember? That was addressed in here. Let me show you.
Uh-huh.
So we're still working on that, but I just needed something to where I didn't have to answer the same question 10 times a day, and
Yeah.
that I could refer people to.
Mhm.
You're right, Jennifer. She said you can lead a horse to water.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But I mean, we're making progress.
Mhm.
That's great. All right. Well, I tell you what, I'm kind of glad I didn't do my my note taker because this was great and I would have taken away from your time. So it's really a wonderful resource and I'm glad that everyone has gotten a chance to see it. And I will put the links in our hub. And please contact Melissa. She is a wealth of information. She's always got great things to share with us.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Melissa.
So rather than go into our WIDA next session, we'll save that for next time. And we'll go ahead and I'll give you your time back for the rest of the evening. Thank you all that were able to attend the Federal Programs Conference with us. It was great to see some of your faces and see you in person. We don't really have any updates other than what Drew has sent out about access testing. And if you need some more information about that, you can drop an email to Drew or myself and we'll help you with that. But that's all I have to offer you this afternoon. Any questions that you have, just drop me an email. And I look forward to seeing you not in December, but in January. We will not have a check-in in December because it falls right at Christmas time. So I will look forward to seeing everyone in January. And I hope you have a great Thanksgiving holiday. If you don't have any,
Happy Thanksgiving.
yes, you too.
Thank you.
So if there are no more questions, we'll go ahead and adjourn for today. You all have a
Adios.
great holiday. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks again, Melissa.
You're welcome.
It was great.
I think I rambled a lot, but
No,
okay.
you did great.